Perfect. So, Rixx, first of all, thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Yeah, yeah.
When
Thanks for
I
having me.
Yeah, no worries. When I started this pitch your playstyle thing, the motivation for it was that I was running for CSM, or even I had just been elected CSM, and I suddenly realized that I couldn't spend all my time trading anymore. and
Right, right.
so I wanted to broaden my horizon and be able to represent a broader player base, and also get a glimpse at other playstyles in EVE Online, to make sure that that I understood them, that I could put them into context when I'm having CSM discussions, etc. And so far
Right.
we've talked about wormhole space, and we are going to be talking about I think faction warfare might be the next one. And so today, you reached out to me and said, "Hey, you represent the pirate playstyle in low-sec specifically," and so that's what we're going to be talking about today, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love it. I can talk about it forever. Yeah, it's great. It's a good subject, and it's close to my heart. I
Nice.
would love to
So
talk about it. Yeah,
I think almost everyone that has spent a fair amount of time in the EVE Online community has been to FanFest, or is involved with Twitch or other EVE channels. They know who you are, but in the odd chance that there's someone out there that doesn't know who you are, can you spend a minute introducing yourself?
sure. Yeah, no problem. My name is Rix Javix. My real name is Brian Ward. It's a long story about how those two things became the same person, but that's a story for another time. But I've been playing Eve for 15 years, a little over 15 years now, 15 and some months. And for the last 13 of those 15 years, I've been a negative 10 pirate in low sec. 10 and a half years ago, I left the Tuskers and formed a new corporation called Stay Frosty. And shortly after that, we formed an alliance in order to be in the alliance tournament called A Band Apart. And I've hosted it, so I've been doing that for a little over 10 years. Much like the Space Pope, a lot of people have given me a title of the Pirate King or the Pirate Lord
Nice.
over the years. So and that is that's something that I get a lot of derision from people outside of that group, but for people inside, it's mostly something that I take a little bit of pride in, because I spend a lot of time advocating for the pirate lifestyle and the play style to CCP. I spent a lot of time writing about it on my blog, Evaganda. And I also, advocate for changes that make the game better. Talk about, and a lot of that is for fun, and a lot of it is being serious too. But so over the years, I've advocated for and got on a soapbox about a lot of subjects, according, including warp core stabilizers and just things to make the game more fun and more enjoyable for the players, not just for pirates but for everyone. And um and I've been to FanFest. I think this last one was our eighth FanFest, 2015, and Amsterdam and Toronto and Vegas and Iceland, and just we're very, very involved in the community. My wife and I host a player event here at our home. We did not do that this year because of our kids going into college and being very busy over the summer, but we're going to do that again next year.
Hmm.
And I also do a tremendous amount of artwork for the community. I've got 8 or 9 alliance logos in work right now. In the last 15 years, I've designed a little over 2,000 alliance logos.
Wow.
Um, if you also include blog banners, Twitch stream banners, overlays, community, charity posters, things like that for everybody, it's well over 3,000 pieces that I've created for the Eve community in the last 15 years.
Amazing.
And yeah, it's amazing. And then back in 2015, CCP sold 8 of my spaceship posters. through a company called QMX, and that sort of started a little bit of a relationship that I've enjoyed with CCP since then. I did the community beat. If you're familiar with the community beat, it
Mhm.
comes out every couple of weeks. I did the
Yeah.
graphics for that for
Nice.
CCP, working with them. Yeah, and I was going to do the spaceships on their offices, and that ended up not happening. But I did some work for the London office opening, and then last year I was not this last FanFest, but the one before that, and I was having a chat with a few of the CCPers, and we had a chance to sit down and talk. So we came to an understanding about the Eve IP, and so I'm licensing the Eve IP, and I have a website called rixjavix.com, which sells my artwork and posters and metal posters, paper posters, and things like that I do for the Eve community. So those are for sale. So if you get a chance, visit rixjavix.com, and that's
I've
a
been there.
actual yeah, it's an actual copyright uh, relationship that I'm having with CCP. It's going really really well. And then earlier this year, I got a D. You never know what the DMs you're going to get, right? I got a
Mhm.
DM from somebody that I didn't know on Discord, and so we started chatting. He was a gentleman from Poland, and we started chatting about board games, and if I knew anybody that might be able to help and to design a board game, do some illustrations for a board game. And I said, well, if it's a board game about Eve Online, then you're talking to the right person. and I don't know if your viewers know this, but during the '90s, I worked for the Marvel Entertainment Group out of New Jersey, and designed a lot of the card games, trading card sets, and things for X-Men and the NFL, and all that. So I have some experience. We designed a trading card game called Marvel Overpower that was kind of popular in the '90s, and so I have some experience with that. And I've been trying to get CCP back in the business of doing card games and stuff since Second Genesis failed. And it turned out to be a company out of Poland called Titan Forge. And so since February, I've been working honestly pretty much nonstop on this Eve board game called War for New Eden, which
Awesome.
is
We got to see it at FanFest.
yeah, got to see it at FanFest. Yeah, a lot of people got to play it and see it live and real. And so that's going to be a Kickstarter. And I mean, every single day, I am working on a piece of that. When we got back from FanFest, there were still 147 illustrations to be done for the card game. So me and the team over there have been working nonstop. And I think this is really great. I mean, this is not giving away anything. I'm not really supposed to talk a whole lot about it yet because it's not out. But the plan is to have the entire thing ready to go before it goes live, which is pretty unusual for Kickstarter.
Mhm.
Typically people Kickstarter ideas, and then they develop it. But we're doing it the opposite. We're going to Titan Forge is in a position, and they think that that's the right thing to do, and I agree. Is that we're going to have it pretty much ready to go when we open up the Kickstarter to the public. So that's pretty exciting. And I do not have a definitive time frame for that, but it's going to be here in the next few months.
Nice.
So that so
And
that I mean
yeah.
that was a lot of talking. That was a lot of talking to get through the point that I'm a pirate. I'm the CEO of Stay Frosty. I've been -10 for 13 years straight, and I'm the alliance executive part, and that's what I do in game.
And before I forget, I think I know you have a Frigate Free-for-all that you host, right? And that happens in Oleta, right?
It does, yeah. And that started about about 12 or 13 years ago. I hosted a very small event. It was about 50 people showed up for it. It was a race through Providence. So we started on one high sec gate, and we raced through Providence and came out on another high sec gate. And that was sort of like a death race, and we gave prizes out. It was a very modest event, but it went really well. And everybody had a really great time. And So I started thinking that that was kind of cool, and a lot of people showed up for it who wouldn't normally show up, to do something like that. And so I started hosting more death races, and then I started hosting free fall. So when I started Stay Frosty, we just kept that tradition alive, and we've been holding those every year in Aletta, which is our home system, and the last three have really started to break records. Like CB Fozzie is kind enough to keep track of them for us. The one before this one broke all the records for largest battle ever in LoSec, and I mean we the last 2 years we've given out about 15,000 frigates. It's just
Wow.
astronomical, the numbers. Yeah, the event runs for about 6 or 7 hours, and we just manically hand out frigates to everybody who wants them. And we have the special fleets come through, and we undock special ships. I undocked a Naglfar the year before and had everybody kill it, and a Marshall. And last year, I don't remember. We had carriers and we had a couple orcas undocked. Just have a lot of fun. And the great thing about those events is that um, we've been running them for so long now. I run into people in space or at FanFest or somewhere who say, hey man, that 5 years ago, that FFA that I was in, that was the first time I got to try PvP. And I really enjoyed it so much. Now, that's what I do. That's what I do in the game. And I've heard that from, literally hundreds of players. So I'm very proud of that, and we're going to keep it going because I think it's a really easy way for people to show up, get handed a ship. They dock up in station, they get handed a ship, and then just go have fun, and you don't have to worry about losing, something your own. It's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, we
And
last
yeah,
weekend, I don't know if you guys noticed, but we accidentally crashed Boletta because we had our Halloween event, and we
right,
didn't
right. Yeah,
we didn't expect the dread brawl to happen, but Eden Trade just flew his obelisk pumpkin into your
it was
system,
awesome.
and we ended up there ended up being 50 billion destroyed from mostly dreads from in it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
So thanks for
it's
hosting
a
us.
great. Yeah, that was awesome. That was a great example of how quickly the word spreads about things when we heard about what you were doing about 3 hours beforehand, and then it was just like a few people knew about it, and then the word got around, and before long, everybody's waiting on gates or organizing their fleets, or it doesn't take long for word to get around. That something cool's going to happen. And sadly, I missed it because the timing was just off by about an hour, but
Yeah.
it was good. Everybody had fun. I know that. So
So, Rixx, explain to someone that might be new to the game, or that might be doing something completely different in the game. What does being a pirate mean in EVE Online?
sure, yeah. No, this is a very very touchy subject. So I'm gonna do my best here. All right. So for example, I don't know if you've had a chance to watch Down the Rabbit Hole, the new video that came out this week. That's
I've
six
started
hours
it.
long.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
started.
yeah. So I just watched it in 30-minute chunks, and I just finished it this morning. But the reason I bring it up is because, in all due respect to Phantomite, we get along great, and we know each other in real life, and I've known him for a long time. But in all due respect, there's a quote from Phantomite in it that stood out to me because it's about piracy, and basically says, I don't believe, it's something to the tune of, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, something to the tune of, I don't believe in piracy. It really just boils down to PvP. And there is some truth to that. And you could, and some people do, argue that our lifestyle is really just PvP in low sec. You're just PvPers, and that is partly true. We do a tremendous amount of PvP. The thing is that piracy is different than PvP, and what makes it different isn't it isn't any kind of legalese or anything like that. It's two things really. It's basically an attitude, and also the sex status. So when I introduced myself, I said, that I'd been negative 10 for 13 years straight, and there is a lot of um, negative things that come along with being negative 10. You can be engaged anywhere. When we get when I usually carry around 50 to 150. What do they call that when people put bounties? I
Hmm.
carry about 50 to 150 bounties on me at any one time. I think the last time I counted, I had 72 bounties active on Rixx. Somebody dies, they put some money on you so people can kill you, and we just laugh about. I laugh about that. It For a person who's negative 10, that's completely useless because I am shootable no matter where I go. So
Hmm.
no matter what I do or where I go, you can shoot me freely and not gain any negativity from it, basically, because I'm negative 10, I'm a criminal, and I live that way constantly. So I go into high sec. I can't really hang out on gates a whole lot because I can be killed easily, and you won't get gate guns from it. So being negative is we like to call it the hard playing Eve on hard mode because we live in a weird place. We don't have moon mines. We don't do a lot of industry. We don't really do anything so other than combat and stealing from other people. So, for example, today I told you earlier I was going out on a fleet. So there were 25 of us in retributions and in a fleet today for 2 hours. We roamed around Losec. We caught Bustard on a gate, and it had a golem in it and a lot of really shiny faction modules. So we all made, I don't know, in total it was 2.5 billion ISK. And so for a moment of combat, we split 2.5 billion ISK between 20 people. So that's a pretty good day for a pirate. And excuse me. And so piracy is about criminality, and it's not just PvP, being positive sex status or worrying about your sex status. It is about criminality, being a criminal who exists primarily through acquisition of other people's assets. So we're in the asset distribute redistribution business, as the mafia would used to say. We take other people's assets and redistribute them to ourselves and our corporation, and that's our business. Our business is stealing other people's goods, essentially.
Do you make enough to cover? Because one thing that I always have discussions about is that PvP in Evo 9 is expensive, right? Like for
Right,
most
right.
people, it's not a sustainable, a self-sustainable playstyle. You have to do something else on the side, be it crabbing or swiping a credit card. But how do you feel about the risk and reward, or the self sustainability of solo or group PvP and Evo 9?
Yeah, I think that it is pretty much impossible to 100% make enough ISK to sustain yourself as a pirate in Eve. So what we typically do when the player comes on, we have this conversation about the other two alts on your account, right? Let's just say that, for example, that you're a single subscriber, and we won't even talk about alts or multiple accounts, but you're a single subscriber. You've got 3 accounts on that sub. You've got your main, and then you've got 2 alts. So what we recommend is that at least one of those alts is a hauling alt that maintains a positive sex status. Typically, our guys do a lot of station trading in high sec, taking goods from low sec to high sec to sell to resell. So you're going to need that too, because if you're maintaining a negative sex status, you're not. I can't go in the high sec, but my trading alt can. So that's where all my goods, my loot goes to her. It happens to be a female character, and she flies them into high sec and does station trading for me. And then the other account, we typically see most of our players use that as a PVE mission running, other activities that make ISK for them when they're not pirating. So that's how you can supplement your pirate income with um, other forms of income. So you don't have to do any of those things full time. but you can, in a combination of those things, you can make more than enough ISK to sustain a full-time PvP or pirate on the other account.
Mhm.
So it's a little bit of work, but it can be done easily, and especially now, a lot like 8 to 10 years ago. Now LoSec is very busy. LoSec is full of faction warfare. There's plexus to be run. There's missions to be run. There's lots of ways to make ISK purely from piracy. And I've talked about this on my blog quite a bit. There's a lot of money laying around in space if you're a little bit clever. And I mean, just the other day I was out solo flying around, and I came up on a gate that had a fight, and I don't remember what ship I was in, but there were literally 57 faction drones, left on that gate. And within a matter of 5 minutes, I had scooped them all up into my cargo and dropped them off in station. So, just casually walking around, I probably made, what, 35 or 40 million ISK just picking up lost drones people had abandoned on the gate. So there's a lot of things like that too that can be done to help supplement income. But I will say this, that any any pirate worth his salt, worth his leather, isn't we're not doing this game to make ISK. We're not making this to see a fat bank or to do anything. We're basically transferring money back into ships for ourselves, excuse me, to PvP and to YAR constantly, because that's really anything you're doing that's not undocking and going out and finding fights, and hopefully finding some good fights, is a waste of time. So all good pirates want to be PvPing full time. I mean,
Mhm.
that's what we live for. We love it. It's the challenge of putting yourself up against other ships, outnumbered, outskilled, um, that magic good fight. We share a lot of kill mills. We talk a lot about how to fit ships. We talk about tactics. When I'm out FCing, we're talking about why we're doing certain things and how these things are done, and trying to improve everybody's game as we go along. So it's a lot of fun, and that's the way that we play Eve. We don't worry about politics a whole lot. We don't worry about what's going on in nullsec too much, and we just, I mean, as opposed to when we filament or something, we'll do nullsec raids too. We do a lot of that as well, and also sometimes in wormholes, space or parchment, or we try to mix it up and not be boring. And next, well, I won't say, but we've got some things coming up that we're going to be doing in nullsec too, just for the fun of it.
Um, for someone
Does that make
that's yeah, that's awesome. But for someone that's joining the game new or has been playing for a while and is looking for something new to do in game, what would be your pitch, and why do you think that piracy is the most fun for you, at least? Like, why do you think that's the best playstyle in EVE Online?
Well, for me, it started as I'm a casual gamer. I started out as a casual gamer. I had a full time job. I only had a few minutes here and there to play Eve. I love Eve. The first moment I saw it, I fell in love with it, and it's only gotten better over the last 15 years. But my son brought me up to his room, and he still plays too.
Mm.
And we were just in Fleet together today. He showed me it on his screen, and I went, "Oh, what is this, and how do I get it?" And I went downstairs and downloaded it on my computer. Um, but for the first 5 or 6 years, I was very casual, and I was in nullsec the first 3 years that I played, and I was in Providence and with Circle of Two and CVA, and a couple of others. We fought a lot of wars down there, against goons and AAA, and I love that. But it's a commitment. There were Saturdays where you'd set for 4 or 5 hours on a Titan and then not do anything, and and I really enjoyed it. But when I discovered lowsec and the pirate lifestyle, the play style, and it really hit me, because it was the kind of thing that I was looking for. It's not as huge of a commitment. I really like the people and the reasons why they were playing and all the stories about piracy and defeating ships that were bigger than you and outsmarting and outwitting and outplaying the other players on the field. And then that whole you know sort of just that whole reasoning behind it about being a space pirate. That's pretty cool. You grow up reading adventure novels and science fiction novels and stories about space pirates, and the whole idea of doing that sounds pretty neat. And then you realize that it's really a thing. You can actually do it. And there are days, if I hear, a lot of times people say, well, we're here in this space or doing this, and I just don't have time to log in, you know, and that's a shame because, I can log in. There are literally days where I have 10, 15 minutes to play. I log in, I undock immediately, and right there in local is a fight to be had, and I have a good fight, and I'm like, that's great. And then I dock up, and that's the end of my eve that day. Most days I have more time, obviously, and especially these days because eve is kind of a full-time gig for me now.
Hmm.
But I love that, the casual nature of it. But more importantly, what really got into my soul was that whole idea of playing Eve on hard mode. The idea that, everybody's gonna hate you, everybody's gonna want to kill you. You're gonna carry a tag, a skull, a red flashy, death skull with you when you enter local. When I jump into a system, and there's 12, 15 people in that system, and they all scatter and dock up or leave just because I jumped into the system, that's really cool. There's few things cooler than, hey, Rixx is here. We have to go. Um,
Hmm.
I think that's pretty neat. It's like that's pretty awesome. And but then the whole idea of outwitting and outsmarting and outplaying other players and being better at PvP than anybody else, and which is not something I'm aiming, by the way, because I don't want to do that. Um, but being really good at your job and learning everything you can about it and focused. Like I don't have to think about planetary interaction or I know nothing about PI. I know very, very little about industry. I know very little about, internal politics of mega corporations and things like that. So, there's about 500 of us in a band apart, and that's about enough for me.
Hmm.
And that's that, we love it. And so that's what really drives it. It's not about, getting like I said, what do I need ISK for? I
Hmm.
literally have more ISK in my bank right now than I've lost in 15 years of playing the
Great.
game. So I could probably
I know how
stop
that
doing
feels,
anything.
except I haven't fought that
Yeah,
much.
I could probably stop. I could stop doing anything else right now and probably live for the next 15 years on just what I have. I don't need it. So um,
Yeah.
I spend disc on the Frigate Free-for-all. I spend disc on the 20,000 fully frigates, and I spend disc on the Alliance tournament, and things like that. But it's not about that. I mean, what good is virtual money? It's fake pixels, right? So it's about the spaceships. It's about being in space. It's about hanging out with your buddies.
Hmm.
It's the social aspect of it as well. So, you know, we we try to do the best we can with what we have, and then a lot of it's pretty cool that we've been Stay Frosty's been around for a little over a decade, and I think the last time I counted, we had like seven 7,000 or 8,000 players have passed through our doors over that last 10 years, and
Nice.
those players are off. They're off in alliances in nullsec and in wormhole space and in Pochman and in faction warfare, and they're all doing their own thing. I mean, it's with us for the whole 10 years. We have veterans in Stay Frosty that have been there the whole time, and people come and leave and go and come back. But those players have learned something and gone off to do great things on their own too. So that's a little bit of a point of pride as well. So that kind of keeps you
Nice.
motivated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Rix, I'm going to turn your camera off real quick just because the audio is breaking up a little bit. So just to make sure, want to
Oh,
make
okay.
sure that the
Sure. Yeah.
uh, actually you're going to have to turn it off yourself. But I'm going to I'm going to do
Oh, I'll
this
do it.
and
I'll
then.
turn it.
But uh, one question I've had just from doing these interviews is, so we've had wormholes, we've had NPSI as the two play styles, and what they have in common, at least the way that Varag and Kyakti presented them, was that they are groups of players that go out and they don't really care who they shoot. Basically, anyone that's not in the corp or in the fleet in the second part
Right.
is free, is basically is a target, right? And it's the same for you, right? So what would you say is the big difference between what you do as a pirate organization versus NPSI or something like a Wormhole Corp?
Well, again, we're so and I love the people in Bombers Bar and Inspector Fleet and some of the NPSI groups. I think that's a lot of really great people who are doing wonderful things for the game. We love that. We had a fight today. We arranged a fight with a small group that's starting up. Is training noobs. Young players in
Mm-hmm.
PvP, and that's awesome. We used to do that with Eve Uni quite a bit. But the difference comes down to is the commitment to it. So you can jump in an MPSI fleet and then go off and do something else for a while. Again, it's the play style choice that we're making to stick with it, right? We don't, everybody knows where I live, and I'm in Aletta. Feel free to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been there for the last 8 years. So and I'm like I said, I'm also a criminal. I'm -10, and I'm free to shoot. So there's a commitment there that is that is a lot of difference between just jumping in a whole bunch of ships and going around and having good fights, which is there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I
Mm-hmm.
fully support it. Than living it every day, right? So I think that's really the big difference between those two things.
Okay.
We share we
And
share a lot of
with
common. I mean, again, there are a lot of people who don't really commit to the pirate lifestyle. They're in low sec or somewhere for PvP, player versus player combat, and that's a big part of what we do too. But there is a slight difference between those two things.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. I just noticed the parallel between the three interviews in terms of, every those are all three lifestyles that just like to have a lot of targets, you know.
Right, right. Yep, very similar.
In terms of the expansion that's coming up, it's essentially a pirate themed expansion. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think it's fantastic and amazing, and I really, really was. I had a chance a few years ago to spend some time with Aurora and talk about, at the charity dinner and a couple other places to talk about, faction warfare and the problems that we were having with it and the things that were going on. And I'm a huge, huge supporter of faction warfare. And when I ran for CSM, I ran on a faction warfare platform, to try to get faction warfare dealt with and taken care of. And I put, plans out and, all these things about how to fix it. And the reason for that is not that we participate in faction warfare, but faction warfare is in our neighborhood, right? So I want more people in our neighborhood. I want a more vital and more active LoSec. LoSec is where I live and what I care about in the game, and I want to see it not waste away, right? Because there were times when we hadn't been, nullsec gets a lot of love from CCP. Wormholes have had their challenges too, and then there was Potchfin and the Trigs, and it just for a long time it seemed like lowsec had been forgotten, and so it was nice for that to happen, and then to see it again this year, with Havoc. I'm very excited about it, and we all are. And this time we're going to do something a little different. I've decided that we're going to, we're going to allow our pilots the opportunity to join the Gristas or the Angels, and see how it goes as a trial basis because I'm a little curious to see if this might be. I'm a little worried that it might be the end of piracy as we know it, but it might be the beginning of something new. So we'll see. We're gonna give it a trial for a few months and see how it goes.
What is it going to mean specifically for how is it going to change your daily activities? The Havoc expansion?
Well, I have a feeling. Well, I mean, there are some opportunities here. Well, and there are also some boundaries because, for example, we can't take the entirety of Stay Frosty into Pirate Faction
Hmm.
warfare because of we've been around for 10 years, so we have really really bad standings with both of those groups, and also a lot of players who um, I would basically have to kick 75% of the workforce out of the corporation. And then a lot of us would have to dedicate a lot of time in order to get our standings up, in order to get the corporation in. And so I don't want to do that. But individually, if a pilot wants to join a faction warfare pirate faction, then that's fine, and we're going to give that a shot and see how it goes. But corruption corruption seems to have some interesting benefit. From the potential of turning some high sec systems into low sec, and the potential of turning some low sec systems into null sec, at least temporarily, enough where we could use some nullsec, tactics with bubbles on gates, and being able to go into high sec that's been corrupted and not be shot by Concord for a time period. That sounds pretty exciting. That's some new types of things that we haven't had access to in the past. So I think that there's the potential here to be something special. So we'll have to wait and see how it gets implemented because, as we know, that's the rubber where the rubber meets the road is always the proof of it. CCP talks a lot sometimes, and maybe their implementation's not always the best, but we'll wait and see. We're a
Hmm.
couple weeks away. I'm pretty excited about it. If anything, if nothing else, it will increase traffic in LoSec and provide more targets for everyone. So it should be
Yeah, for
good that
sure.
way.
For sure.
I mean,
Um,
yeah, we're already hearing a lot of stories about certain groups in nullsec wanting to come and play too. So we could see quite a explosion in the population.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Rix, a different direction, but how important are kill boards for what you do? Like, is it? Do you chase big kills? Do you chase interesting fights? What's important to you and your corp?
Well, killboards have a little bit. Well, it's a lot like what I said earlier about I don't want to. It's a controversial subject, right?
Hmm.
Would I be interested in an Eve without it? I used to think that it would be better. I've changed my mind. Is what I'm getting at. Over the
Okay.
last 10 years, I've changed my mind. I used to be on the side that said I think killboards are bad and that maybe we don't need them. And over time, as you play longer, and I think this is part of the thing is once you've started to really commit to playing Eve and staying with it, and we're talking decades now, and you realize that really the beauty of the killboard system is that it's a journal. It's a record of. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I'm talking or telling a story. Just the other day, I was sitting on a gate and I was waiting for something to happen. And a couple fleet mates were with me, and we were just having to talk about freighters. And I was telling a story that happened back in 2019. There was an obelisk in local. I was the only person in local, and he was autopiloting. And he docked up. And when he undocked, he autopiloted back to the high sec gate. And wow, I was like, oh, I'm going to jump in my nightmare and I'm going to warp down there. And I did. And, took 15, 20 minutes, but I finally, killed him. I'm like, "Oh, where's that kill mill?" And it only takes you a second to find it, and, I share it with everybody, and they're like, "Oh, wow, that's pretty awesome," and it's a
Hmm.
it's hard to tell that story without it, to remember, like, what was I doing in 2008? what was I up to in 2010? In May of 2010, what was going on? It's pretty easy to just do a search on Zkill and say, oh, here, this is what my month in May of 2010 looked like. If that information wasn't readily available, I think a lot of those stories would be lost, or we wouldn't remember them as well as we do because it's so easy to just look it up and share it with people. Here's the link to that kill I made in 2011. I mean, that's insane when you think about it.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah,
So I
absolutely.
think from a record, it's invaluable from a record standpoint, especially as this game, we're over 20 years now, and as it drags on into another decade, and we're staring down the battle of 30 years. I think it becomes invaluable, and it's something that can't be lost. This past week when Squiz was having trouble with it and the database
Yeah.
went down, he felt kind of lost. It was like, well, Zkill's not working. I can't tell you how many times it's like, well, who's leading the corp in kills right now? And in Stay Frosty, we have several awards that get triggered at the end of every month, and one of those is we Stay Frosty's patron saint is Corporal Dwayne Hicks from Aliens,
Hmm.
because the famous quote, the aliens are coming, everybody stay frosty. That's kind of where we get our name from. So we have an end of the month award called the Hicks Award that goes to the pilot who's had the most kills, both total kills and solo kills. And so the end of the month was coming, and it was like, well, who's going to get? How are we going to figure out who gets the Hicks Award this month? And although I will say this, that I do think, a small delay in the Killboard updating would be great. There was a period of time when Squiz had a delay on it, and people were angry and yelling at him all the time about it. But I do believe a small delay is not unwarranted. It is an intel
Hmm.
gathering tool. But to his point, if he does that, somebody else will step in and provide instantaneous uh, kill mail. So
Oh,
what's
for
the
sure.
point?
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody else would do it. And, I mean, Intel right now, my goodness, the amount of services that are available to tell you what I'm up to, where I'm at, what I'm doing, and what system I'm in are just insane. The amount of level of detail that is available to people if they want to look for it.
Yeah, you can. I mean, from gate camps to kill boards, to
Yeah,
profiles of everyone in your local. Everything is there if you want to look at it, right? It's really,
yeah, yeah, yeah. What are my trends? What do I tend to fly a lot of? What kind of ship
yeah,
am I most likely in? Just what are my records in those ships? It's insane.
yeah. Um, in Stay Frosty, let's take a weekend. What's a typical weekend day like if somebody is interested in joining your corp or your or piracy in general? What do you guys do?
Well, every day when I log on, in general, every day there's a fleet up, daily fleets, typically called standing fleets. We usually have standing fleets running pretty much all the time, or it should be all the time. Sometimes people forget to do them,
Hmm.
but generally, everybody's up to something. And standing fleets are. We used to call those wolf packs. So basically, we're all out doing our own thing until somebody runs across a potential target or something that might need some help with, or sharing intel. So that's a good way to do that. So even if we're out, there's 8 of us out solo. Everybody's doing their own thing. But if you run across a fleet of cruisers or whatever, you can let everybody know. Or if there's a gate camp, it's a quick way to share intel amongst each other. And then every Saturday, um, pretty much every Saturday, I run a 2 to 3 hour fleet every Saturday. So that's our usual weekly. Everybody get together at the same time, and I just pick a theme. So this week was retributions, and next week will be something else. I'm not going to say on here what it'll be, but yeah, I think next week we're going to probably go to nullsec with it, just for something different. And then, so that's pretty much our days. And then, 2 or 3, 4 times a week, somebody else will pick a Prada. He's one of our pilots. He likes to run filaments in the nullsec. So usually on Wednesday or Thursday, he'll run a fleet. Everybody will warp to the sun and then jump somewhere randomly into nullsec, and then grab Intosicers or raid ESSs, or just have a lot of fun with whatever's on field, and then get chased out of nullsec by a large response fleet, which is always a hoot. Uh, and we've been doing some Potchman gate camping and things too, so that's always fun as well. We try to mix it up as much as we can and keep things interesting.
Okay. And I assume you're recruiting?
Always looking for our next meat shield to join the corporation. Yes.
Nice. And how do people that want to join, what's the easiest way to join?
Yeah, there's well, just to say too, we it's not that we don't like noobs, but the pirate lifestyle is really hard for young people. When I started Stay Frosty, I just decided, hey, we're not even going to worry about recruitment. We're just going to take anybody. If you want in, you can get in, and that became kind of a issue for us over the years. So we decided that we were going to, set some standards that pilots had to have at least 10 or 15 million skill points. They needed an alt, and they needed to have a little bit of experience, some kind of a kill board to show us that they've been, active. And that's pretty much, minimum thing. But to reach us is really simple. You can reach me on Discord at Rixx Javix, and or in game. We have two in-game channels. One's named after my blog, which is easy to remember. It's just called Evaganda, and That's our Stay Frosty public channel. And then we also have another public channel called the Frosty Hammer, but that's a little bit harder to remember.
I'll put the
But
Evoganda link to your blog in chat as well, in case
oh,
somebody
thanks.
wants to
Yeah,
look at that. There,
yeah,
it's the one
yeah.
at
Thank you.
Blogspot, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so that's easy. I'm the easiest person to reach. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Discord. I'm on Instagram. You go to rixjavix.com. You can send me an email. Um, pretty much everywhere. But yeah, that's how. And yeah, we're always looking for new people, and it's a lot of fun. It can be difficult for some. Not everyone is cut out for the play style, and we understand that. And if things don't work out, it, it's a family. It really is. And when you die, I find it. When you fly together and you die together, and you face unsurmountable odds together, and you get blapped together. When you spend some time with people, you really get to know them really well, and you become friends and really a family. So you know. Even if you're not in Stay Frosty anymore, you're still part of the family. And when those people decide to come back, we just had this week. I don't know if you know MacGybo. He was a
Mhm.
well-known high sec ganker. He was in Stay Frosty, and last year he helped us write a song. We did one of those shanties together, and so he had left to do some other projects, and then so this week he came back. So everybody's super happy about it. It's like an old friend has returned, so that's cool. Eve is just such a weird ass thing, isn't it? How long have
Yeah, it
you been
is.
playing?
Love it. My first character is from 2004, so I have been playing for
Okay,
almost
you're
20
wild. Yeah,
years. I
yeah,
just took
yeah.
long breaks in between, work, family,
Right,
etc., etc.
right.
But the
Yeah,
last
yeah,
4
yeah. That
years have been
happens.
going fairly strong, and
Yeah. So I mean, it's just a
yeah,
weird. It's a weird game. It's just. I mean, not like anything else out there. I don't really even know what to compare it to. Yeah, I honestly, when I started, there was no way I could have imagined that I'd still be doing this. I mean, and not just still playing the game, but like I'm totally invested in this thing. I mean, I'm working full time on it with a board game.
yeah.
You're talking to you. I'm still writing a blog. This blog is almost 15 years old. I mean, what the heck? Um, I would never would
That's
have imagined that.
That's actually a good point. Maybe as a last question, can you? I have your blog open here on stream, so the chat can see it right now, or all
Sure,
the
sure.
viewers can see it. Can you talk about the blog? It looks incredibly active. You have entries here every week, almost every day. What do you write about? Why should people visit it?
Well, I do try to do a little bit of everything on there, and it's entertainment only. But I do share. I try to write stories about interesting things that have happened to me, both in game and out of game. I do try to keep everybody up to date on projects that I'm working on new pieces of art, and now, of course, the board game. But I can't talk about it a lot yet, but I will be able to soon. And also, tips, tricks, resources, my opinion about things. I do a comic strip. I'm up to 117 comic strips that I've been doing for the last 10 years. Share artwork. Well, the last post is a great example. There was I had been talking about this for a number of years, and we were in Fleet the other day talking about it, and I was like, I'm just going to mock up something. So we opened up Photoshop, and I played around with a Marshall for a while, and I think that there should be a Marshall for negative players. If anybody's out there that doesn't know, the Marshall is a Concorde battleship that gets bonuses based on positive sex status. So the more positive sex status you have, the more powerful that battleship becomes, which is great for people who have, +2 or +3, sex standing with Concorde. But what about us pirates who have -10 sex status? I think that at some point, some pirate somewhere must have stolen the Marshall and converted it into something that would work for us. So that was kind of the last post was, what would that look like? And I called it the revenge. And
Hmm.
obviously, I got a little carried away with putting skulls on it and stuff, and fire. You know, and we were talking today in Fleet that one of the benefits of having that ship is that every time you pod somebody, the corpse gets stuck to the ship, and your hull goes up by 1 hit point because the more corpses that you have on your ship, the more your hull points go up. I think that's pretty funny.
Nice. Yeah. Well, if the good one's called the Marshall, then this should be called the Godfather or something.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's a great idea. I think it should be
Nice.
eventually
Yeah,
done.
it's really good.
I
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, thanks. I think it's a great idea. I think also, the idea of having a ship or more than one that you can't get in if you were positive sex status. Like you can't even fly it. Like I like that idea too, where this ship can't even go into high sec. Like the gates won't let it in. I think that's kind of interesting too. I think the idea of restricting certain activities because of your sex status is kind of a fascinating idea. But I digress, and perhaps CCP can't manage that with the database. I don't
Well,
know.
it sounds like you
I
have
just
your own channels into CCP, but I'll try to at least use the CSM channel to bring this up.
right. Thanks. Yeah, yeah. No, feel free to tell everybody about the revenge. Yeah, I shared that with a few people yesterday. They thought it was pretty good. But I mean, I've talked about this with them before, so it's not a new idea. But sometimes publicly they just need a kick in the pants in the right direction. So I'm an annoying.
It helps.
Well, like a piece of sand, right? Which sometimes turns into a pearl.
Nice. Well, that's a perfect closing word. Rixx, thanks so much for stopping by. It's been
Hey,
fun
yeah, this
chatting,
was this is fun. Yeah, 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 yeah. Anytime,
good luck with
anytime. I'm always willing.
anything with your piracy. I hope you might get some new recruits out of this as well. Let me know. Let me know
Awesome,
if you do. And yeah, well, I'll put this up on YouTube and the podcast feed as well. So if you want
awesome,
to share this with your crew that might not be able to catch this today, then do let them know. Cool.
awesome. Yeah, yeah.
All
And
right.
maybe the FFA is going to be coming up here in March, so maybe we can get on and talk about that beforehand too.
Somebody
So
said earlier
we'll.
that I don't know if you know the Oz Tank that I run. I run a
Mm,
Shark Tank
right.
show for EVE Online, so
All right.
you can pitch your ideas, and I got together with four other trillionaires in EVE Online, and we just fund
Oh,
ideas.
that's awesome.
The thing is, it doesn't
Cool.
have to be there doesn't have to be a return on investment. It just if it's just content, then you just get money. So
Right.
if you're still in need for funding for your free for all, then next Saturday is the next show, and up until Tuesday you can still post ideas for the show that to get
Oh,
funded in
wow.
our Discord. So
Oh, that's
hit me
great.
up if you want to pitch something, and we might double your prize money or something.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds great. All right, cool. Yeah, we'll do that.
Cool.
All right, man.
Awesome.
It's good.
Rixx,
Good
have a
talk.
good rest of
Cheers.
the day, good weekend, and see you soon.
Yeah, same. Cheers.
Thanks. Bye.